As my character awoke in a shadowy clinic in Bloodborne's first area, I wasn't sure what to expect. As my first foray into From Software's cult hit Souls series, I wasn't particularly a veteran to say the least. As I ventured farther down into the clinic, sparse, non-intrusive tutorial messages illuminated my path. Before I knew it, my first foe was within my sight. Armed with only my bare fists, I tackled the fearsome werewolf creature in an outstandingly one-sided deathmatch. Expectedly, I was dead within a minute. But in this particular instance, the story wanted me to die so that it could spawn me in Bloodborne's mysterious hub world, the Hunter's Dream. Here, you can level up your character, repair your weapons, and purchase items from helpful little creatures known as the Messengers. Additionally, this entire hub world is decorated with even more tutorial messages. These would be the last helpful hints the game would ever send my way. Right off the bat, I'm fond of Bloodborne's dynamic introduction to its world. Gone are the prolonged and intrusive tutorials that hold your hand in other games. This is Bloodborne, and it's in a league of its own. Before teleporting back to the clinic area from the Hunter's Dream, the messengers were kind enough to grant me with two weapons of my choice, one firearm and one melee weapon. I opted for the Hunter's Axe and the blunderbuss that was featured so prominently in the game's trailers. After selecting my gear, I was on my way. Facing against me once again was my canine friend, but there was one problem. I didn't know how to equip my weapons. Tellingly, Bloodborne provides tutorial messages on how to perform all the game's various melee techniques and movesets, but doesn't even tell you how to equip your gear in the first place. At this particular moment in the game, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I simply thought I wasn't supposed to be able to equip anything. I rushed onwards and faced an onslaught of Yharnam's beasts with my fists. It was spectacularly manly to the highest degree. Of course, my fun was short-lived when I eventually became accustomed to the menus and realized I was playing wrong. With all my gear equipped, I was now a much greater force to be reckoned with. Early on, Bloodborne's greatest strengths are seen in its first areas, those strengths being its remarkable level design. Landscapes are decorated with Gothic imagery and foreboding cathedrals. The architecture is decidedly dark, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Mind you, Bloodborne isn't exactly a graphical powerhouse, but the beauty of strolling down rain-soaked cobblestone streets in a Gothic world is truly something fascinating. Of course, don't expect those streets to be empty. The world of Bloodborne is populated by twisted creatures that would love nothing more than to see your head on a stake. Whether it be dogs, villagers, or werewolves, each enemy is vicious and won't hesitate to grant you a swift end. The designs of each monster is remarkably unique and downright disturbing. I'd personally let you off the hook if you mistook Bloodborne for a survival horror game. Thankfully, combat against these beasts is a joy. Bloodborne features some outstandingly fast, aggressive combat that'll give you heart palpitations. This is best showcased against the game's vast array of boss encounters. Dodging a boss's ferocious combos by rolling away at just the right moment is pretty nerve-wracking. While we're on the subject of bosses, you may be curious about Bloodborne's difficulty. After all, it carries with it Dark Souls' legacy of extreme challenge. I'm happy to report that Bloodborne presents a mighty challenge. Granted, I'm not very well versed on the other Souls games, but I'd wager Bloodborne is just as difficult as its predecessors. If you're new to the series like I am, however, don't let that dissuade you. I personally found the challenge to be greatly over-exaggerated. It's harsh, but fair. Disheartening, but not overwhelming. To sum it up, I find it to be perfectly balanced. Of course, the more you play, the more you'll gain experience and get better gear. This greatly assists your journey and can make some enemies seem like a piece of cake. I implore anybody who is curious of Bloodborne, even if you're a newbie, to give it a shot. You just might fall in love. In closing, Bloodborne is the best game on the PlayStation 4. If you've been holding out on getting your feet wet for next gen, now is the time to get involved. This is Sony's killer app. Bloodborne is thought-provoking, challenging, and atmospheric. It rewards players for their inquisitiveness, and there's always a surprise around every corner. The narrative takes a back seat here, but the game world itself does a profound job at telling a story all on its own. This is the action RPG we've all been waiting for. It's not bogged down by number sheets or stats like some games. Instead, it gets you directly engaged and enamored. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to get lost in this twisted, mad world once again.